Kevin McHale recently came out, let everybody know that James Harden is not a leader. He said if James Harden was to tell you to play defense, would you listen to him when he doesn't even really play defense any harder? James Harden responded to Kevin McHale, basically letting him know that he's a clown. And the one thing that bothers me about all of this relationship between James Harden and Kevin McHale, it's been over a year. Both sides to the debate basically either buried the hatchet or just decide never to speak about each other again. I watched Kevin McHale on numerous occasions basically talk about the situation in Houston. He's been vague and then sometimes he goes very direct. This time he was very poignant and very direct. But it's just like, why are you doing this? It reminds me so much of the George Karl and Carmelo Anthony situation where even after Carmelo left, George Karl was still bashing Carmelo. Even in his book, George Karl wrote things about Carmelo not having a father figure, etc., etc. That being said, Kevin McHale has to stop. And you only have to talk about the X's and O's and not bring it to anything personal when it comes to James Harden. You're saying the guy's not a leader, but in the past 4 years or 3 or 4 seasons, he's been an MVP candidate. Since 2015, 2016, 2017, he 24 all those seasons, he's been an MVP candidate. He may not show up defensively, but he shows up in a lot of different ways. It's just like people have to understand something about basketball players. Not every basketball player can do every single thing on the court. Like, some basketball players can shoot better than others. Some basketball can rebound better than others. Some basketball players can dribble better than others. But you're not going to find a basketball player that does every single thing better than every single person. Even like LeBron James, he's like all-around great player. He's not a better shooter than Steph. Steph's not a better defender than LeBron. Steph's not a better rebounder than Jimmy Butler. Like, I mean, there's so many different things. So, like, for Kevin McHale to keep saying James Harden is not a leader, etc., etc. Maybe when he was on, when you had him, when you were coaching him, you didn't feel like he was a leader. Say, when I was coaching him, I feel like there were certain aspects of leadership that I did not see. But you can't speak on him now and say he's not a leader. Like that's you're not coaching him anymore. A, B, he's been an MVP candidate. MVP candidates are leaders. They're the most valuable players for their teams, and they're leaders. So everything he's saying there, it doesn't match. It doesn't coincide with what we're seeing now today about James Harden. Even most recently, James Harden has been playing some ounces of defense. Like, not a ton, but the best that he knows how to. So that being said, it's just like, why do you keep putting salt in the wound? Just say, and you can't tell somebody what to say, but you could say something along the lines. I'll advise him to say something like, well, you know, in the past, when people have asked James to play James had asked other players to play defense, they kind of laughed at him because he hasn't been showing a quite effort. You know, that remains to be seen what we see in the future. But this is just like an old bitter coach. And I love Kevin McHale. He's a cool dude, solid guy. He might have some insight that we don't have. Because I know halfway through the season as well, or the season before, when he got fired, they fired him, and the team, it wasn't like the team was really, really awful. It was just like the players just stopped responding to him. So there might be some other insight that we're not knowing. There's might be some things that he's holding back, and then like day in and day out, you know, it's little things here, little jabs here, little things here that comes out. So it's like sort of like a guy that cheats on a woman and he's trying to make it up to her, but every time he's trying to make it up to her, she brings out something that he did. It's just a little bit of here, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So it's crazy. It's crazy. It was crazy that after a year plus removed, that we're still having a situation where it's like going back and forth. And James is responding to his ex-coach. He's calling him a clown. He said he did everything that he requested of him. And, you know, at the end of the day, everybody can't be who you want them to be. They just could be them. So that's the best thing that you possibly could do. So I don't understand this vindictiveness about coaches, because when coaches get fired, they take it really personally. They think it's just like the one player that got you fired. It wasn't the one player. It was how you manage situations, how you manage relationships, how you approached every single game. That's what got you fired. Not necessarily the one player. Because even with like George Karl, they didn't fire George Karl right away. They traded Melo instead of firing George Karl. And then George Karl got fired anyway. But George Karl still took it out on Melo. So those are the things that I don't understand. I think once you move on to another situation, you shouldn't really badmouth the players you were coaching, especially when you're a coach. Or if you're a player, you shouldn't badmouth the coach. Because at the end of the day, despite your differences, you guys did build something together. You guys did do something together that should matter somewhere down in the annals of basketball. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, James Harden, when he was coached on the Kevin McHale MVP candidate, then went to the Western Conference Finals. Like, these are things you should be proud of. But like when you're, when you're bashing the guy saying he doesn't play, it's not like you're saying something new that Harden's not like a great defender. But Stephen Curry isn't like the greatest defender. He's solid. To me, he's pretty solid. But Kyrie Irving's not the best defender. Isaiah Thomas is not the best defender. You can't like bash these guys for stuff like that. Like you got to get over it. And I don't think Kevin McHale has gotten over it. And he's seeing that the success that Tony's having, the response, and he doesn't like it most likely. But these old school guys, they're straight shooters. They're not gonna mince words. So I understand where he comes from saying what he said, because we could see that you could say he's not a leader on defense. But to say he's not a leader at all is false. He's been an MVP candidate. He's almost won twice. You got to cut that out. This is Vladimir Hoops Junction, Hoops Me Supla. Peace.